goodness. You can see, ladies, that I've got a special guest with us today. And you can probably see and read who this amazing woman is. We're going to hear, girl, Vireo, as we're kind of like chatting a little bit before going live here with you guys, it's like, and I'm sure that all of you are experiencing a very similar thing where like life is a freaking lot right now. I'm like emotional. I mean, I guess it's always a lot, right? I mean, when is it not a lot? It's life, it's happening. It's very intense. And Miss Vireo is what is called a pleasure coach, which just brings pleasure to me just thinking about that. It just brings joy, like, and confusion a little bit. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, who doesn't want that? Right? So welcome to my little group here and my beautiful ladies. You know, my group is called Ladies, Let's Button Those Jeans Again. So really it's about feeling great in our bodies. And what does that mean? And what I really love, Vireo, and I hope that maybe we can touch on this a little bit, is I would love to hear a little bit more about how we increase pleasure in our lives that doesn't have to do with food. Because food has been it's such a pleasurable thing. And when we're making changes and when we're thinking about what diet to do and when we're considering needing to lose weight, that's not like a super joyful and pleasurable experience in itself. It's like let's suffer to get the benefit later. And I'm really hoping that you can help us switch our minds around that and say, hey, let's actually enjoy the ride while we're going. And what better time than now when there's so much confusion, so much stress, so much intensity, so much divisiveness in our worlds and in our communities and at the world at large. Like, what better time to really talk about pleasure? Because what's the freaking point of living if we're not having some joy and some pleasure? So ladies, this amazing woman right here, I just got to tell you, she's got a list of qualifications here. I'm just going to read this to you because it's really impressive and really cool. So she's a licensed belief repatterning practitioner. That right there is just amazing. A sacred sexuality coach who's been supporting and empowering women for well over a decade, specializing in shame busting around taboo subjects like sex and grief and suicide. And I imagine body, right? Body shaming, which so many of us women have done. And I'm freaking over that. That is what I'm standing for. Done shaming my body. She's also a Tao tantric arts facilitator, Kundalini dance teacher, a laughter yoga facilitator, and positive self-talk coach, best-selling author and speaker. In March of 2020, her chapter Transforming That Shame was published in compilation From Shadows to Light, a whole human approach to mental health. This is amazing. Vireo, I mean, I think I can keep going on for another several minutes just introducing you to us, but hello, say hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rose, for your sweet words. And I love you. You're just a powerhouse of enthusiasm. You're a powerhouse of wisdom. And I love what you are bringing to women in the world. I love hearing you speak. You light me up every time I hear you speak. And I love following what you have going on with your women. And you help them to button up their jeans. I helped them to unbutton their jeans.
That's too funny. Did you just think of that?
I don't know. That just came now. I know. You know,
all right, ladies,
I think
watch out.
The thing I want to say too is, you know, it's been a shit show for me as well the last 2 years. And I live in a cabin in northern Alberta, Canada, by the lake. I live in paradise, okay? And I might drop the F-bomb once in a while. So you just, if you don't want your kids to hear the F-bomb, you might want to just like watch this later. So I'll do my best to not. Mine are older now and they probably heard it. Well, they heard it when they were younger too. Anyway, I'm a grandma now. So, yeah. And so it's, you know, it's been pretty wild ride for me as well. But what I've noticed is when I'm in the shit show and life is happening around me, I'm not stuck in the shit pile for so long like I used to be in the past. And the pandemic, even though I'm still knocked down, but in the past, things that would have knocked me down for longer, I'm actually getting up faster because of pleasure. And just even recently, I'm just going to tell you, so if just so it's just on the table. Like I've had, and this is not public knowledge, by the way, I have a brother who is basically facing death right now. He's dealing with alcoholism, and he was told 3 months to live if he doesn't quit drinking. That's my younger brother. I love him. We used to just laugh so much together. And my mom is on number 3 cancer coming to her, possibly. So say a prayer for my mama. I've been supporting her the last 2 months. She first colon cancer 7 years ago, when spirit told me to move up here to this little cabin in the woods. Before I knew that, and then during COVID, breast cancer, 2 breast surgeries. She's been navigating, and I tell you this for a reason. I'll tell you kind of why I'm telling you this. So she's been navigating losing my brother very tragically to suicide 28 years ago, right? So you can imagine, as a mom, losing your own child, right? He's firstborn, my older brother. And then recently, she's been in and out of the hospital the last 2 months. And now they're thinking maybe she has bone cancer because she's got protein in her blood. And I will tell you, honestly, I would be a complete wreck if it wasn't for pleasure and my mindful practices and my repatterning, belief repatterning. Honestly, I don't even know, like, if I'd still be on the planet, honestly, or so I tell you that it is my superpower tool of pleasure practices, which, let me tell you, there's been mornings where, do I want to do the practices? Hell no. Do I feel like there's a shit list of things that I should get out of my bed and be doing? Absolutely. And you know what? I've developed such a discipline in having my own mentors and having my pleasure program and having these practices that I've been practicing now for the newer ones is like diligently for over 5 years, some of them for 15, 20 years, but the most recent, combining the pleasure practices with mindset tools, have helped me, so my morning practices are massive, and I still resist them. I still have resistance that comes up, and my kind of like resistance is futile mantra comes up, that I just stay in my bedroom until I've done my practices. And then some, I go down to the lake and I pray to the Mother, Father, God, the divine, the goddess. I do my practices, because if I didn't, I would not have anything to give my mom and my brother and all the shit show that's going on in my life right now. And so it's those practices that have helped me to be the eye of the storm and to keep navigating, and all of this going on during a pandemic where we've got so much separation on the planet. So let's just kind of breathe into that. So I just want to let you know, if you've got a shit show going on in your life too, you are so not alone. And I'm passionate about sharing pleasure, because we're in a society that doesn't value pleasure. And yet I know things that I learned. I'm 59 years young, and I feel and look younger today than I did at 40. At 55 years old, Rose, I learned things about my female anatomy and my body that nobody had ever told me. And honestly, I'm an introvert. I'd rather hide out in my cabin and just do my own thing. But there's something bigger that I feel this responsibility to all of you as women, that I don't have a right not to tell you this, even though I got a shit show going on in my own life. And there's so much shame and taboo around sexuality. I'm like, I want every woman to know what I didn't know, so that you can navigate your life and be that eye of the storm, and then bring your gifts that you have, starting with your family, your children, and then rippling it out to others. So that's why I'm here today, even though there's this shit show going on around me, that I'm just like, I just got to get up and keep coming and telling people and talking with amazing women like Rose, who are also on fire and just want to make a difference in this world. So
yeah. Ooh, girl, I really resonate with what you're talking about. I'm not an introvert, but speaking in front of anybody about my body or my weight or what I'm eating and not eating was literally the last thing on earth that I ever wanted to do, ever freaking ever. Right. So I totally get that. Like, it was such a point of shame and like secrecy. And I just wanted it to go away and I didn't want to talk about it. And then once I found a solution, just like what you're saying, I transformed. And this exact same thing, I felt like I can't keep this to myself. It was such a like burning desire within, like to stand for other women, that like we don't have to be ashamed of our bodies or of our weight, or afraid of what to eat or not to eat, or be hiding in a closet by ourselves because we ate something or don't feel comfortable in our bodies, don't know how to lose the weight, whatever that is. Oh, thank you. So really what I'm thinking is like, what is that? What is the backstory, Vireo? Like what happened that pivoted you? Cause you probably grew up like everybody else grew up. Like, I don't know if your mom is a Tantra sex coach, right? Like mine either, right? So like, where did you learn this? What sparked your desire? Like, what was your bottom that then, triggered that transformation for you?
Yeah, so my life right now is pretty orgasmic and ecstatic. Even with the pandemic going on, I'm able to shine my light. And absolutely 5 years ago, I was not there. I was actually in a puddle of snot and tears on the deck of this cabin right now where I'm blessed to live. And yeah, a couple things had happened. I had just ended a 17-year marriage, a
Mm.
17-year marriage where I was so disconnected from my body and sexuality. I'm going to be super vulnerable here again. During that 17-year marriage, I used to lay under the covers after he would fall asleep. There's a book by Paulo Coelho called 11 Minutes. It's an awesome book. And he says that on the planet, the average is 11 minutes for having sex, which, let's face it, as women, we're not even warmed up, most of us, 11 minutes, right? So it's really frustrating, disappointing. So, but no blame to my first husband. We were the blind leading the blind. I had no idea what to ask for. I didn't even know there was a different opportunity available. Didn't know about Tantra and Taoism and any of that. And so he would fall asleep snoring. And when he was snoring, I would go and masturbate under the covers. And I can't even call it self-pleasuring because it literally was painful. It was all I could do, Rose, to take the edge off. And sometimes if he was sleeping, if he wasn't sleeping, I would go to the washroom. And I'd been studying, like I'd been reading lots and taking courses. I dragged him to a gazillion courses trying to save the marriage. In the end, I needed to actually save Vireo. And I did end up in a relationship. The next relationship I was in for 3.5 years was amazing, orgasmic sex and great, and everything I'd read about. And there was a lot of other messed up parts of that relationship, but the sex was great. And then he sent me a text message that said, "I release you." And that's when I was in this puddle of snot and tears on the deck of my cabin. And I was like, oh my gosh, my heart was like this huge weight on my heart. I wanted to literally just hide. I could hear these voices shouting in my head, "You're stupid, you're a failure." I was embarrassed. I wanted to curl up and just hide. I didn't want anybody to know that here I had failed again at relationship. And then I had this sudden realization that my whole life I had given the power of my happiness and, yes, even my orgasm to the men in my life. And I decided in that moment that I was going to figure out how to be sovereign with Vireo. I was going to figure out how to navigate this body myself, and have that pleasure that I'd experienced with that partner of 3.5 years. And I wanted that. I wanted to have that. And I decided 13 months, no dating, no sex with anybody else, just sex with myself. And I went to Thailand. I studied, I was called to go to Thailand, and I studied and became a sacred sexuality coach, sacred femininity as well. And pretty much day by day, week by week, I was practicing the practices there. And like I said, I learned things I didn't even know I didn't know about my female anatomy that were not taught in the Western world. And then over the next couple of years, I became a mindset coach with belief or patterning. And I started combining these tools and I started shame busting the not good enough and undeserving and all the bullshit around body and sexuality. And then what happened is women started coming to me and saying, I want what you have. What the hell? What are you doing, Vireo? Because they saw the transformation in me. And so I launched my first pleasure program around 4 years ago, and women started falling in love with their bodies and started having more orgasm and started to be able to confidently ask for what they wanted in the bedroom. I had one woman that doubled her income in 6 months because she's now was vibrating at this higher attractive level. People who manifested their partner, people whose marriages started having better sex. And yeah, and that's kind of history now. It's now I feel like I don't have a right not to tell women, because right now, I don't know if you know the stats, it's very sad. 50% of marriages end in divorce. 65% of second marriages in North America end in divorce. And the biggest reason is I've done a whole bunch of research and interviewed people over the last 10 plus years. And what I've discovered is two things that really disturbed me. One is that the sixth reason that marriages end in divorce is lack of intimacy, lack of sex. And the number one reason that marriages end in divorce is actually infidelity, which tells us when it's at number 6, if you don't take care of it, it's going to come bite you in the ass as the number one reason that the marriage could end. And let's face it, we know divorce is expensive. It impacts our kids. I am, like I said, one of those 50% percentages of people whose marriage did end in divorce. And I'm really on a mission to reduce that on the planet and to have more sexually satisfied, happy, empowered, badass women on the planet. Because when we're tuned in and turned on to our sexuality as women, we have a confidence that is fucking unstoppable. We can't be stopped. And the world would rather us actually not tap into pleasure because we're more easily manipulated, we're more easily controlled when we're just numb. When we're numb and we're in our ego mind and we're disconnected, we can be sheep and just herded and whatever. So I know more than ever, the world right now desperately needs more women who are tuned in, confident, tuned into their body, their intuition, and can navigate their life from this center, no matter what's going on in the outside. And that's what I want for all of you.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. As you're talking, it's really interesting. And I'm guessing that I'm not the only one that I think I have a little bit of, I don't know if it's like stereotype or confusion, or like there's things that are like mushed together in my mind that as I'm listening to you, I think don't actually go together, but my judgment is that they do. So like when I'm thinking about sex, I'm thinking about it's so interesting, like my own thoughts, right? It's like, oh, well, it's that sexy person. Like, do I need to like wear a big old push-up bra and like a mini skirt? And like, that's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about a sexually empowered woman, is one who just is like, looks kind of slutty. And I like logically, I'm like, well, that's not accurate. And as I'm listening to you, you're talking about being confident. You're talking about being secure. You're talking about being turned on, not in a way that's like, oh my God, I just need to have sex with everyone. And like, here's my boobs. Not in that kind of a way, but in a way where you're turned on, like spiritually, kind of is what I'm hearing for you. You're turned on in a way that is present, that is confident, that is here, that has a flow of energy that is attractive and not necessarily sexually like that domination, submissive, dominant kind of sexuality that I think I'm more used to.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in what you just said and so much to unwrap. So let me just respond to it in a couple of ways. there's a couple things. Is even just our definition of sex is so messed up, right? So we think of sex as penetration. That's what we think of sex, right? And it's not. Sex is actually creation, creative life force energy.
Mm.
So for me, when I said at the beginning, my life is ecstatic and orgasmic, I'm talking about like my whole life. I'm talking about life is making love with me
Mm.
every moment, or as many moments as possible. And yes, it's about being present. And, I mean, I've had orgasms now dancing, I've had orgasms watching a sunset. Um, but we're in a society that has so much shame around sexuality. Eve was blamed, even if you're not religious. We carry this cultural shame around sex, our bodies, around all of it. So there's a lot to my experience has been in my pleasure program is that we actually invest a lot of time unpacking the lies, the beliefs, the shame around our intimacy so that we can redefine what sex means to us and what does it mean to be turned on, and that we start to define that for ourselves. So that's a big piece of it is, yeah, what does it even mean? How do we define sex? And it's not the problem actually often is that we're disconnected from our bodies all day, and then if you're in an intimate relationship, then you're going to like have sex with your partner later. That actually doesn't work very well because we come and no pun intended, we don't actually come. We're like in our heads, we're not in our bodies, we're disconnected. And they make these awful jokes. I don't, this is terrible, it's just what's coming, so I'm just going to share it. But they make these comments about sex where a woman is looking, I just I'm getting hot talking about this. um Make the comments that a woman, a married woman having sex is she's looking at the ceiling going, oh, should I paint that? Should we go with eggshell? Should we go with white? Which is terrible, right? So we're some of you might even be wondering, like, what's the big deal about sex? What I want you to know is if you don't think sex is like pleasurable, you're missing out on a lot. And I want you to know what you don't know so that you can actually realize this wealth of creative life force energy that you have access to that will actually impact every area of your life, from your physical health to your mental to your wealth to everything. So that's one piece. We could like go on for hours about that. The other piece is that we have two choices as women. We're given the choice. You could be the pure innocent virgin, Mother Mary, right? You could be that, or you could be the slut. Those are the two choices we're given on the planet. That's it. There's nothing in between for us, right? So you can sort of be this disconnected from your sexuality. Everything is just, spiritual, but it's a spiritual kind of disconnect. It's not really it's not an embodied spirituality. So what I find in my pleasure program with the women is we actually start to dissolve some of those beliefs so that we can be wearing whatever we want. We could be buck naked, jeans on, no jeans, wearing that lingerie, not wearing it. And we love ourselves in all of those flavors. So it's actually about not having a judgment either way, and not making our sexuality about necessarily what we wear, and also making the possibility, if we do want to wear that's okay too. It's like this freedom to kind of, this liberation to not put a judgment on any of it, and to open to that part of us that might go, well, maybe I do want to try that flavor. There's something in you that has a desire for that, and that we let go of the judgment around it, and we start to just get to know our own bodies, and we start to explore, like, what does turn me on, without the judgments, because it's usually the judgments that stop us from actually accessing the tremendous power and life force energy that is there in pleasure. I mean, think about it. We give birth to children, right? And it comes because we're this portal to creative life force energy. And that's what sexuality is so much more about. Like, think of Mother Nature and the access to that wealth of life force energy.
Mm.
So that's a little bit of to respond to what you were saying. So
Oh,
it's not so much that submissive, and
right.
it's because we do have we've been in a patriarchy for 5,000 years, right? So as women, we've sort of, like me, where I had given the responsibility of my sexuality to my partner. And it's like, no, we need to reclaim that as women and figure out our own bodies, and know when to say yes and when to say no. I mean, as a, especially those of you that are mothers of daughters, sons is important too. In particular, though, as daughters, we want our daughters to be able to say no and to be able to say yes to this, and to, when, let me just, so my thought, the thread here that I want to say is that when girls don't know their bodies, when young girls don't know how to self pleasure, they are more easily manipulated by their hormones as they start to become, you know, sexual young girls. So the more we can model this as mothers, my ultimate desire, dream that's kind of resurfacing talking to you, Rose, is that I really want to work with mothers and their daughters, right? And have daughters, because a lot of the stuff that happened to me, and probably that's true for some of you listening, is a lot of us had, sexual trauma and unpleasant things around our sexuality and our first experiences with sexuality. And if we can teach our daughters to love their bodies, and that it's normal and natural to self pleasure, then they don't become prey to getting in an unhealthy relationship because their hormones are freaking out on them and they think they need this partner to have this release. But if they start to do it on their own, then they're navigating from this choice that they're not like desperate written across their face, and they get entangled in unhealthy relationships. Where if they actually knew how to take care of their own body needs, then they wouldn't end up in teenage pregnancy and unhealthy rape situations and things. So that's
Wow.
just coming as I'm talking here,
No,
but this
that's, I
is
mean,
just
you are,
it's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, we're right in line, because what I'm thinking, and this is, for me and for a vast majority of my, I mean, I've been working with women, I mean, for years, 10, 20, I mean, I guess not 30 years. I was 10 years old 30 years ago. So, but I mean, like, navigating my own body and stuff. And I mean, it's probably 90% of the women that I work with have this fear of, because what happens is that when you're eating like shit and you're gaining weight, your libido is freaking on dry spell, right? Like, you don't even care. All your hormones are out of whack. You're just not interested in whatever's going down there. You just don't even care. You're just in the sugar flour craze. And then what happens is that you start to lose some weight, you start to feel better, your libido comes back, and then you start getting attention from men. And a lot of women never navigated that. They never did exactly what you're talking about. They grew up and they never were, learned how to be comfortable in their own sexuality, learn how to be confident in their own bodies, learn how to say yes and no when it's appropriate, learn how to self-soothe or self-pleasure without it being crazy, learned all that stuff. And so we grow up and it's like, it's so fearful to be 30, 40, 50 years old and still not know how to navigate sexuality and attention from men. And that is, I can't tell you how many women I've known gain their weight back just because they didn't know how to deal with that. Wow, that's really powerful. I hadn't totally put all that together.
Yeah, and women also gain the weight back because the reality is, if we don't deal with some of that sexual trauma,
Yeah.
and trauma can be a lover entered you too soon, trauma can be you put a dry tampon in and it hurt, trauma can be like the whole gamut, all of it, from little trauma to big.
All big,
Is
yeah.
if we don't deal with that, then what happens is, when that energy, that sexual life force energy, starts to awaken and we get this attention from men, we, on a, perhaps you may not be conscious of this, but what happens on the subconscious level is that old stuff from childhood comes up, and we actually end up feeling unsafe in our own bodies. So
Yeah.
then we gain the weight back because that's like
Yep.
it's like a
Barrier.
cushion of protection.
Mhm.
So if we don't deal with those things, then that spiral just continues and continues and continues. So I definitely know that myself now, with having, I literally have daily pleasure practices and weekly pleasure practices, that my weight now has been like constant, like just it's it's been steady.
Right.
And I don't have the emotional eating and the addictive eating that I used to do, right? Because when we're not filled up from the inside out, we go and we look for all these other things, from shopping to eating to,
Yep.
bad sex to, just some man, not necessarily a healthy relationship, but we go because we're from this desperate place looking to be filled up from the outside.
Man, on point. I knew that you know what I mean? I was like, I think that my ladies would really benefit from what you have to offer. And I was right. I was right on point. And I think, it's interesting as you're talking, personally, just to get a little vulnerable, and I know that we are a little bit over time, so maybe we'll just kind of wrap up with this. But yeah, I have not dated in years. And as you're talking, I mean, I know that I don't need to, but what I'm hearing from you is a little bit of both. It's like, yes, self pleasure and bringing that to the forefront so that we have that confidence and that sense of self, and like how nice it is to share that with another human being when you're full, right? When two full people come together, now that's a fucking relationship that seems awesome. I have never had that. I have never had that. So I'm very excited for my future to be, incorporating some of the things that you're talking about and learning more about what it is that you're talking about. And so that when I show up to that relationship, I am full and I have something to offer. And then obviously then I'd be more attracted to somebody who is also full, so that we're not just trying to fill each other's stuff. We're coming to the relationship both whole. Wow. Oh, Vireo. Okay. So any last words? I know that. So in the little up there, you guys, Vireo is having a 5 days. I mean, she's really going to be going full out, sharing some incredible wisdom with you ladies. So 5 secrets to reignite your intimate desire. I think that's starting tomorrow. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ooh, that's really exciting. So the link to join her for that is just above. If you guys want to click on that, I strongly encourage you to follow Vireo anywhere she's going. She is a true giver in the sense of it's coming straight from her heart, everything that she's got. So yeah, any last words?
Yeah, I just maybe I'll just share a little bit about the event that's coming, pun intended. um, you're going to really be able to dissolve some of that exhaustion. You're going to learn some easy practices. I'm going to start with just easy stuff that's just going to help you to come more into your body. That's going to be day one. We're just going to dissolve some of that exhaustion. Day two, you're going to really understand why I'm so passionate about you understanding pleasure. You're going to come and learn shit that I did not know at 50 until I was 55 years old. So I'm going to be sharing some secrets on day two. You'll definitely want to, come each day to those. And then on day three, you're going to really be able to decrease some of those stress hormones that are probably wreaking havoc in your body right now. And you're going to increase the love potion, right? The dopamine. And then day four, you're going to discover some of the common pitfalls that we share as women. And I think you're going to realize you're not alone. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. We're just have been in this crazy place on this planet for a long time. And then on day five, you're going to really have a chance to reclaim your birthright to pleasure. And I'm super excited about that. It's 1 hour every single day. And I'm planning to have a Q&A after each one as well. So yeah, I promise you that your life will not be the same after you come and learn these secrets. And you'll just want to share them with others. And it's going to make a difference for, if you've got children, that's going to ripple out to them. You're just going to be a way happier person on on a daily level. And I'm excited to gift you this. I will say that it's probably the last time I'm going to offer it for free. My coaches have been saying, okay, Vireo, no more free for this. So if you want to come for free, then gift yourself that now. And I look forward to serving you and supporting you. So live is best. Always, if you can join live, and sometimes technology doesn't always work for recording, but yeah, if you're able to join live, I would highly recommend you gift yourself this time. It's really a gift to yourself and your relationships. So yeah, thank you so much, Rose, for the exciting conversation. You re-inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing by, our depth of this conversation here today. And so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and sharing. It has been a pleasure. I love you, girlfriend. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, ladies. Have a great day. We'll see you later.